What's going on, everyone? My name is Aaron and this is Dad.0. Today I wanted to do a 1 month review of the Fitbit Versa 3. I've been using it for a little bit over a month now and I just wanted to give you my thoughts and overall impressions of it. So I reviewed the original Versa a couple years ago and overall I was really impressed with it. It kind of mixes those basic smartwatch features that everybody loves in a product that's kind of designed for tracking your fitness, tracking your heart rate, and just having great overall battery life. With the Versa 3, they've updated the design just a little bit, but the big things are the features that they've added. But first, let's talk about the design, because from a distance, you might confuse this with an Apple Watch, because it has that same kind of squared off design, but when you get a little bit closer, you can see that the Fitbit Versa actually is the perfect square, has the 336 by 336 resolution screen, where the Apple Watch is more of a rectangle with a taller display. And I do really like this display. It's a 1.5-inch AMOLED display. It gets nice and bright, has beautiful colors. I think it's a really great display. I also really like how the glass from the display rounds off perfectly into the aluminum. And then the aluminum has these nice rounded corners as well. That just gives it a nice uniform design. It's really easy for your sleeve to kind of go over it. Doesn't get caught on things. I really like this. One thing that you will notice is the lack of a physical button. It has this touch-sensitive cutout on the side here that acts as either a home button or a back button, or if you press and hold, it can trigger a few other features like voice assistance or bring up your most favorite apps. Now, in theory, I kind of get this because without a physical button, you can have this be more water and dust resistant. It can have kind of a more uniform design. You have less moving parts and less things that could fail. But when actually using this touch-sensitive button, it's extremely hit or miss. It just doesn't recognize your touch all the time. That's a huge problem when you're trying to use a button and it doesn't recognize your touch. Also, the placement of it is just a little bit funny. If you use this on the left wrist, like a lot of people do, then you kind of have to cock your hand a little bit to use your thumb to press the button. The nice thing about it is that it does have some haptic feedback to it so that you know when you press the button. On the lower half of the sides, you have the speaker cutouts and the microphone cutouts. And then on the bottom, you have the SpO2 sensor and the heart rate sensor, along with the 4 pins for the proprietary charging cord. Another nice feature is that it's really easy to change the bands. You just press on the button on the back, they easily discharge, and then you can buy them from either Fitbit or you can buy some knockoff ones off Amazon and then easily change these out. The speaker on the Versa 3 is okay. It's definitely not as loud as my Apple Watch SE speaker, so if you're in a loud room, I would definitely not take a call on this, but if you're in a quiet room, you should be able to hear the person no problem. The microphone does seem to work well. People can hear me just fine when I take a call on this, and the voice assistant always hears me perfectly every time I ask it to do something. And speaking of taking calls on this device, I have an iPhone, and I was very surprised that I could actually take a call on this Fitbit Versa 3. With prior Fitbits, I was never able to actually take a call on my smartwatch. I could see if someone was actually calling, and then I could actually accept the call, but I'd have to take it on my phone. So that's pretty cool that I can actually now take it on my wrist, like an Apple Watch. However, that's not the case for text messages. You still can't reply to them on the Fitbit Versa if you have an iPhone, but you will get the notification that you have a text message and you can read it, you just can't reply. So let's cover some of the other features and how they've been working for me after a month of usage. The Fitbit Versa 3 now has a built-in GPS, which means you don't have to bring your phone for connected GPS when you do outdoor activities. And this has worked really well for me. All you have to do is select an exercise, whether that's an outdoor run or an outdoor walk. You can see that it's trying to connect to the GPS, and it only takes about 10 to 20 seconds for me. Obviously, that's going to depend on where you are, but once it's connected, it obviously will track your workout, and then you can view that workout and where you went in the Fitbit app. Now, I've used the GPS roughly 10 to 12 times in my month of usage, and it's worked well every single time. I've had no problems with it at all. The Versa 3 also has voice assistance, and you can actually choose if you want to use Amazon Alexa or Google Assistant. Now, I haven't tried Google Assistant, but I have been using Amazon Alexa, and she works perfectly. All you have to do to bring up the voice assistant is long press on the button. It'll pop up, and you can just quickly ask it a question, tell it to set a timer, set an alarm, turn off lights, anything like that. There is an always-on display mode. Now, not all the watch faces support that, so if the watch face that you have doesn't support it, when it times out, it'll just bring up an analog or a digital clock. You can choose from one of the two. If the watch face does support it, it'll just dim down the display a little bit to save some battery, and it will stay always on. The kicker here is that if you choose the always on display, That reduces your battery life from 6 days to 2 days. And the Versa 3 will actually tell you that before you enable it, that if you enable this, you're going to get a third of the battery life that you would normally get. You will get all the notifications and it's easy to view them. They'll pop up and vibrate when they come through, but if you miss them, you can just pull down on the home screen and view them there, a lot like an Apple Watch. You can also edit and adjust which apps are allowed to send notifications to the Versa in the Fitbit app. And like I said, Apple users, you won't be able to reply to texts on this device, but Android users can. All right, let's talk about some of the health tracking features because after all, this is a Fitbit and that is its main purpose. Now, Fitbit does have an SpO2 sensor on this Fitbit Versa, but it's a little bit different than most SpO2 sensors on other devices. First, if you want to see your SpO2 results on your watch itself, you have to use one of the SpO2 watch faces. You can't just go to an app and view it. Now you can download the SpO2 app from the Fitbit store, but it doesn't show up on your watch, which is really weird to me. They have it run in the background and then it'll take results as you sleep. And then the only way to view it on your watch again is if you have the watch face. And Fitbit will only do the SpO2 test when you're sleeping, so you can't do this on demand. As far as accuracy, I think it's pretty accurate, not 100%. I have separate SpO2 sensor, medical grade that I've had for a long time that goes on your finger. It's within a couple percentage each time, so it's relatively accurate. Fitbit has the Pure Pulse 2.0 heart rate monitor on the Fitbit Versa, and as far as accuracy, I believe this is very accurate. When compared to my Apple Watch SE, there are very, very similar results that I get, both for workout and for resting heart rate. Now, just like with any wrist heart rate monitor, it's not going to be as accurate as a chest heart rate monitor, but for the most part, this seems to be very accurate. One thing that I really love about Fitbit over an Apple Watch is the in-depth sleep tracking that they provide. They provide you the stages of sleep that you were in during the night. They provide you your heart rate and what your heart did throughout the night. And your SpO2 rating will be taken so that you can diagnose any sort of breathing problems that you might have when you sleep, like sleep apnea. And then they take all that information and give you an overall score for how you slept that night. All the rest of the activity tracking does seem fairly accurate. You can count your steps, your floors climbed, how many calories you burned during the day, how much time you spent in different heart rate zones. So there's a lot of different activity tracking that you can have on this Fitbit Versa. And you can keep an eye on your daily activity on the watch itself by just pulling up on the home screen and you can see all the activity that you're tracked for the day. But if you want some more in-depth information about your activity tracking or how you're trending, you can go on the Fitbit app and it'll give you a lot more information. And I really love what Fitbit did with this app. In my opinion, it's probably the most user-friendly app for a fitness tracker out there. In terms of navigation, it is so easy to understand. Everything's provided when you first log in. You get kind of snapshots of all your different activity tracking, sleep tracking, heart rate tracking, and then you can click on these and just view how you're trending, how things have been going for a week or a month. You can easily update your profile. You can update the watch software or go to the Fitbit store. Now, the Fitbit store is extremely limited when it comes to apps. But the point I'm making here is that the Fitbit app is so user-friendly and it gives you more information about your health and activity, but it isn't super hard to understand. It doesn't get so advanced like Garmin, for instance. And that's not a knock on Garmin at all because people that buy Garmin's want that advanced information, but people that buy Fitbits, I feel like they just kind of want the more general information rather than super advanced analytics. The Fitbit Versa is water resistant up to 50 meters, so you can go swimming with this on. I personally haven't yet, so I can't really talk about that too much, but I have worn this in the shower. I've worn it while washing my hands, giving my daughter a bath, and that sort of thing. There's been no problems there. For battery life, they quote 6+ days for the Fitbit Versa. I see closer to 5 in my usage. And again, this is depending upon usage. If you use a lot of GPS workouts, it's going to be a lot shorter. Or if you use the always on display a lot, it's going to be way shorter than the 6 days that they quote. But I don't use the always on display. I do use the GPS roughly 3 to 4 times per week for roughly 30 minutes to an hour each time. I have all the notifications going to my Fitbit Versa 3, so I'm looking at it quite often. I wear it 24/7, and again, I get roughly 5 days. And overall, I really like this Fitbit Versa 3. It's not perfect by any means, but there's a lot to love here. The addition of a built-in GPS is a big plus because a lot of people don't want to bring their phones on long runs or something like that. So having that GPS built in is really nice. Also, you can use Alexa or Google Assistant right on your wrist. That's also a big plus. The screen is beautiful. It's a little bit bigger this time. There's an always on options for those that want that. The sleep tracking is really, really nice. And also just the activity tracking is perfect for anyone that just wants to keep an eye on how active they're being. The ability to take calls right from your wrist is also a really nice feature. And if you're an Android user, you can reply to text. And a major selling point, especially for those Apple users out there, is the 5 or 6 day battery life on this device. That's a huge upgrade over the Apple Watch. A couple things I'm not super happy with is, first has to be the touch sensitive button. It just doesn't recognize touch all the time. And actually there's a bunch of times where it's just super frustrating to use. Another would be just kind of the snappiness of the processing power and the UI of this Fitbit Versa 3. There's a lot of times where it just kind of stutters or freezes, and it's just not as fluid as an Apple Watch or some of the more premium smartwatches on the market. And last would just be kind of the weirdness of the SpO2 testing, how you can only do it when you're sleeping, and you can only view it on the watch if you use a certain watch face. But overall, I do think this is a really good smartwatch, and I think it's perfect for those that kind of want that more advanced activity tracking like Fitbit offers in their Charge and their Inspire, but they want something that looks a little bit better, that looks a little bit more like a smartwatch and has a better, bigger screen, and just offers some more smartwatch features. So I do think that this is worth the price. However, just be forewarned that that touch sensitive button and the UI might give you a little bit of frustrations from time to time. And if you can find this on sale during the holidays or when they have random sales on this, snatch it up, because I think then once it's on sale for 10-20% off, that's when this will be a really great buy. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap this up. I hope that this video helps you decide whether the Fitbit Versa 3 is for you or if you're going to look elsewhere. If you enjoyed this video, I really appreciate if you press that like button and consider subscribing. I really appreciate everyone that subscribes to my channel, and I promise to keep coming out with new content. Thanks again, guys. I'll catch you on the next video.